there's Maendeleo chap. So you see that every other time that you reach at that level of being a governor or a deputy governor or a speaker of the state house or of the county assembly, you are also at that level. Now again, this takes us back to what is happening here. Maybe I think you see every step you take gives you learning points. That in the just concluded presidential elections and parliamentary elections, where we saw the vice president losing, I think also we should borrow relief from Nigeria and Kenya, where for them, even at national level, you have a running mate for presidency. But also at governor level, you also have what? A running mate. That your chairman LC5 now would see Lukwago having a running mate, or Nabila having a running mate, chairman LC5 Gulu having a running mate. So that there's nothing like who is going to, so that the principal and his or her deputy are voted at.
But I'll tell you that's constitution. Our constitution does not. Our constitution does not.
No, but we've amended the constitution twice. Our constitution
but we haven't amended it to allow for that.
I'm saying we can also think what happened, because also in Kenya it happened after Mudi Awori lost the election.
Exactly, okay, because for a case here, you'll notice that the KCCA Act is very clear that you have the mayor, and the mayor will choose the deputy from amongst the councillors. So the deputy becomes his discretion. He chooses to actually say, you remember what was actually here recently. Where they even
but the law was again amended further to create for the speakers, and now the mayor can also appoint an executive.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, because that means when you win the election, it becomes winner takes all. You're saying something.
Yeah, I was two things. He mentioned something which I've always mentioned about the local governments and the political parties. You know, the political parties in Uganda are only focused at the MP and the president. And this has been our complaint, and we have seen it play out, that they don't know that the whole stock of leaders is down there in the local governments. Trust me, by the end of today, you are going, because this low turnout, what does it mean? It means that the incumbents have an advantage of winning this election. And that means that the movement is going to retain the majority of the local government slots because of this low turnout. Now,
because apathy benefits the incumbent and the government in power.
Yes, and the political parties, not only that they are not interested, but they have not done much to mobilize their people to vote for their people down there. Even in Uganda, you are going to see the movement taking a lot of this district local government positions of the chairpersons, even these councillors, and although it would be even more than 50-50 like we had thought, you will find it taking more. But at the same time, we have seen in these governors and people leaving even parliament, going back to contest in these positions. The example of Kenya, we have seen members of parliament,
not even member of parliament, ministers.
Yes, even ministers going to contest as governors, for the simple reason that the facilitation at this level to take home, and even the other responsibilities that are given to these governors are enormous. Now, the problem with us is that the chairperson of a district, for example, how much do they earn?
No,
about 2 million.
Yes. Which is less than what a councillor in Kenya gets.
Exactly.
The ones they call MCAs.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we want to have a stronger leadership at the local level, then there should be amenities to motivation to attract more serious contenders at that level. I'm not saying that the people who are in the district are not serious, but of course we would want to see more dynamic, more energetic, more competition at the local level by creating incentives. You can have a district which has about 5 to 10 members of parliament. But then you realize the man who is controlling 10 constituencies is earning less than any of those people. If MPs are taking home about 25 million a month, for example, why can't we have a chairman taking home maybe 15 million, so that that position is also enhanced, attracts more competition. When an MP, we want to see MPs leaving Parliament and saying, I'm going to contest in Mukono as a chairman of Mukono, I'm going to contest in Gulu as a chairman of Gulu, so that these places, I mean, these vacancies are also competitive and attracting more dynamic leaders, that we can have the leadership not only at the national level, but across the board.
Dr. Arthur Bainom Jisha, who has just been with me in studios here, has just revealed something to me here, which I will bring to attention to discuss it, especially a relationship between members of parliament and the district chairpersons, because there's also been some animosity there that cripples district councils and the district chairpersons all at that level, because they look at them as competitors. Number one, for fear of them coming to a parliament. Now, you just saw one in Mubende losing, Amoti Bazigatirao. Being governor of Mubende for I think 2 terms, getting the majority votes whenever he comes into the race, and trying out for member of parliament and miserably losing. Now he also now doesn't get there. But just remind the viewers out there that the election is going on, and what happens is we have 11 candidates for the mayor seat of Kampala, but also we are talking about these councillors that we talk about are 484 Kampala Capital City Authority councillors. Now these are those that are in the race. We can't mention all of them. We can't name all of them. Now the people who want to come to the council, how many are supposed to be in that council? About 21, 22 or 29?
Actually,
the number is about 31 or so.
I don't think they exceed 35.
They shouldn't exceed 35. Now of the 35, you have 484 who are contesting. Yes, what are the odds? And where do you think all these others will get to a call? Because many of these are actually looking for employment before we get to the relationship between MPs and district chairpersons.
Now, I think that brings us to the fact that politics is becoming lucrative in Uganda, where people see it as an easy way of being employed, no matter your experience, no matter your qualifications. That notwithstanding, you can easily win as long as you have the support of the people. But my issue goes back to the quality. Who are these people who are coming? Now in Kenya, in Ghana, and in Nigeria, sitting on the university council, you must be of a master's and above. Now,
you must be professor.
Yes, a master's.
A master's is the least qualification.
Least qualification. You don't need to be a doctor. You don't need to be a professor. Now, here in Uganda, of course, the law says that KCCA nominates representatives to the governing bodies of universities. Now we have 3 public universities: Makerere, of course we have MOBS, we have Chambogo. Now the last time I checked, the person, there was at a time when actually the person who was representing KCCA on the board at Chambogo was the senior Ford report, and I was like, wow.
How did the senior Ford report get to the council?
Because now he was the councillor who was there. Because at that time the councillor, actually I think the highest was around senior 6. So, but the law says KCCA must. You get it? Yeah, so these are some of the things that, because now when you go to those countries, being even a member of the State House in Lagos, in Abuja, when somebody brings out their credentials,
because of somebody may think State House.
Of course,
they'll think State House was the president.
Now in Nigeria,
they have states.
They call them states. So the council of the state is called State House. Yes, State House Assembly. So even being a member of the State House Assembly in Nigeria, when you look at their credentials, because for example, Yaradua was a professor when he was the governor of Kasina. You come to Dr. Goodluck Jonathan was a doctor, university professor. When he was governor of Basila, you get. So it's showing that for them, that's how they take leadership very, very serious. Now you go to Kenya, you have a whole Professor Anyang' Nyong'o, the governor of Kisumu. You have a whole Dr. Alfred Mutua, the governor of Machakos. So that is how they look. You had the Dr. Kidero Evans the other time. So that's how they take leadership. That even when you look at their MCAs, they are at that level. And this is what I feel Ugandans should look at. Don't look at a councillor, no. If you have a public university in that particular institution, look for somebody who's going to sit on that.
They'll ask you whether education is commensurate to development and leadership in this case.
Well, we may not say so, but if that is at the moment, if that is what is globally acknowledged and recognized, then we must go by it.
Is it a disservice to ourselves, or what do we need to do?
No, I think it is really a disservice to ourselves, because if you're senior 4 dropout or a senior 6 and you're sitting on university council, I wonder what added, what privileged information really, what value you're going to add on it to the running.
Because you don't know how to give accountability, maybe nobody even asks you what you got from the university council for as long as you're there to earn a salary or an allowance.
No, you remind me sometime back. Yes.
Kidogo, let him complete.
You remind me sometime back, there was a training with the Office of the Auditor General, and the Auditor General was like, 70% of the members who are sitting on the accounting committees of Parliament knew nothing about accounting. Now these are the people you're putting with that. So there's always a crisis, and that comes as a result of voting out of excitement.
Okay.
Yes.
Mututa, you wanted to make some submission
I was
on that?
saying him, which has actually put back. You are going to account to people who don't know what you are accounting, what you are telling them.
Somebody was making an argument yesterday about these new members of Parliament. Yes. And there's this specific member of Parliament, one of the musicians who was voted into Parliament, and she actually said and made a comment and said, when I tried to do an interview with him in English, he said, "Temumbuza vya Ruzungu, I don't understand English." Now, this lady, this journalist, was surprised that this man has now been voted to Parliament, and said, now, what will he say in Parliament? Then some other person defended the member of Parliament and said, nobody else has to say anything. He will actually make comments in the corridors. Then the following question was, what is he going to comment about, because you didn't understand what was discussed on the floor of Parliament? So what?
No, you talk about what your people want to hear.
Because we'll be discussing about this particular debate, and you seem not to understand it. You actually don't know what was said. So you're going to make.
But I think
you're going to make. You're going to comment in the corridors about what that you did not even understand initially.
It is also the misuse of the allocation of the deployment of the resources, because if the law says that you have to appoint a person to be a councillor, I mean to join the university council, still
from the council, yes.
From the council, still you can appoint someone from. It doesn't stop you from appointing a scholar within the area of jurisdiction to join the university council.
But if the person is not a councillor, the law does not allow.
The law talks about councillors.
Yes, councillors, yes, not from.
Then that's a lacuna.
But we have had cases, for example.
Then that's also a lacuna in the law.
It is also possible. We have had cases like if a local council, a local government doesn't have a board like a public service board, or in the past when they used to have procurement the board, you can use the neighboring district. So if we don't have a councillor who can qualify
to sit on the council,
still we can use the neighbors to have that support for someone to sit. But the only thing is that it should be clear, whoever comes to do this should have this qualification. I mean, if you are going to be on to be a chairman of health services, and you can't even differentiate between a needle and a syringe, and then you are a chairman, what are you going to do? At the same time, I think the resources are available, but it's the deployment, the selfishness of the people, of the councillors, of the appointing authorities who want to own that as their own. But I think this country has enough resources. But at the same time, when you look at the type of people who got these councils, today we are voting, and you realize that when people are going to vote, they are not going to vote about the personality. How is this person going to blend with the rest when he goes to the council? How is this person, what's the person's background in terms of education, in terms of experience in service, in terms of political awareness? people are voting like you saw last time. Either you are voting a bus, you don't want to know. You are voting an umbrella, you don't want to know. You are voting what, you don't want to know. But later on is when you realize, and I would want to see that time when people will come back to us and say, we are sorry, we didn't know what we were doing. And that's likely to happen because you have put in power people who are supposed to serve not only you, because once a person is elected a chairman of a district or elected a member of parliament, stops being a chairman of a person of that district. We have had an experience of this particular mayor who was elected, and he was supposed to go, I don't remember the story very well, but I think was supposed to go to one of the European countries to represent his council in this. So when he got to the airport, he was supposed to go to Estonia, but when he was asked at the airport, he was going
traveling to Estonia.
Yes, he said he was going to Aston Villa. Of course, that is what is in his mind, and people could tell his country.
He was traveling to a country called Aston Villa.
So these are some of the problems.
And did he finally get there?
Of course, he couldn't allow a person to go and get lost. He was still from within. So. This thing a Ugandan mayor, one of the municipalities of this country.
So where was he? At Entebbe Airport? Or
yes, when he was asked from the airport where he was going, for him he said he was going to Aston Villa.
They should have written it for him.
So when people, for us who do the voting, let's also be aware. But of course, like also he said, is the voter more enlightened than the person is voting? The current trend shows that people are voting people because they relate. And if the person you have been together, maybe in a group, in a club, then you are likely that your thinking, your awareness is the same. I was telling someone yesterday that we were discussing something down there yesterday, and we said, hypothetically, that if you held elections at UBC here, and you brought in people to bring CVs, and you would find that actually a man who welcomes people at the gate can beat the MD in the election because he's relating with more people than the MD.
Exactly.
And this is what is happening. So you are not looking at the credentials of a person, but you are looking at a person who you can easily talk to, a person you can easily access.
Blend with, so
exactly.
Easily.
So that you cannot have an electorate which is more enlightened than their leaders, or vice versa. But this is something that I think as a country, as we build our democracy, that we need to go over if you are to have leadership that's going to be respected both internally but also externally.
When you look at the local government's policy in this country and look at the act itself, it's a very good thing, and you think yes, there will be a lot and very good service delivery coming to the people. However, so many years down the road, when you look at the act, which is I think 1997, and the policy of 1992, so many years later, we don't seem to actually be there. Are we moving forward? Are we making strides? Is this a mockery to our democracy, or we think that someday we will be able to rectify the problems and the situation to have able and working local governments, as opposed to what we are seeing today?
No, I just have to, my feeling is that no matter the challenges, we are always moving forward. Yeah, because it is what we go through that gives us something better to look at. But I just want to say this, that when it comes to the local government's politics, in some districts it is dictated upon by the technocrats. And technocrats, if there is a Jagenda and a call, and they know that Jagenda is well read, he's experienced in management, they're not going to campaign for you. They will actually fund a person like a call, perhaps who's even a high school dropout, one they can easily manipulate. And that has always been the game. At most of the districts. That's why most of the districts now have turned into hubs of corruption. They have turned into actually bedrocks of corruption, because of that. They actually, most of them, they very much detest having a chairperson LC5 who's actually knowledgeable, who knows what they are doing. But also still, as we went back to what we were saying, is that just like the challenge of the RDCs, you have a cow and you have other technocrats who have budgets they control, and you as the chairperson LC5, your survival very much depends on how you work with the cow. So these are some of the issues that were, unlike in the past where the local governments would actually hire their own cow, where the council would say, well, we may not work with this cow, and they fire the cow. But now the cow is appointed by the central government, by the PPS. Yes, but again, let's look at but let's look at how we have evolved, right from the RC system resistance councils, then changing from resistance council to local council, that is by the 1995 constitution. So you find that the first election we had as a country, where everybody participated in voting the chairperson LC5, was 1998. So below the election, before that, elections were in ascending order. From this stage you vote the other until you come to LC5. And we find that in 1998, actually, when we had elections, that was the first time when now people came in, those who are qualified to run run government. And there was a tsunami during the elections. There were a lot of changes. Then we had another election in 2001. Then subsequently, now until now we've been having elections. Every time we have presidential, we also have local government elections. So I think where we need to change as a country is how do we motivate the chairperson LC5s, how do we motivate the councillors? Because as I told you that councillors in Uganda are paid per sitting. So you can,
yes, that's they're paid per sitting. There are those that get, I think, only 250,000. There are those actually the salary which is just 250,000, $250,000 shillings. I think we'll discuss that when we come back. We'll also talk about the committees of parliament, where we know that there is another committee called the Local Governments Committee of Parliament. We just need to probe into what they do. Now we have members of parliament who have been voted into office. They're not encouraging people to go and vote for the local councillors, wherever they are. But yet again, these are some of those who are going to sit on these committees. So we need to probe into much of what they do. But to our viewers out there, the elections are happening and going on. Here in Kampala, we are looking at who becomes the next mayor of Kampala. Is it Lukwago staying at the city hall, or somebody else is coming to the throne, Lukwago, and ending Lukwago's tenure hold on to the city hall? But we just go to Wakiso, where we have a correspondent to just get the updates from Wakiso, and we'll still rotate around the country to feed you with what is happening. Now, just remember, we're counting only 25 minutes through the end of the polls. Now, those that will be in the queues by that time, if there will be any, will be the ones there. So it literally means that by 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, we shall be able to actually know who are the winners for the various districts. But we'll take a break and just get this update from Wakiso.
Time. The voter turn-up is seemingly very low, and the agents here say the voters were not sensitized about the exercise.
So we observe. I am here to see the process, how it goes. Today the main target is LC5 chairpersons and LC councillors, LC5 councillors, female and male. So compared to the presidential election, the turn-up was very high compared to now, because on the presidential election, by now people were so many, but actually by 6 people were already congested here, and we spent the whole night counting up to I think around midnight. We were still counting here, but by look of things here, we might end by 5 or 6, because the turn-up is very low. People are coming one by one, and some of them we are just calling them. We give them a call, there is election today, you please come and vote. And others, we just hijacking them on the words. They go to do their work, we just hijack them. They ask what's happening here, then we inform them what's happening here. The cause basically we think awareness was so low, The presidential election was everyone was aware, because everyone knew we are voting president and it's on 14th. But today, people don't know the dates, people don't know what's happening. I think the awareness was very lacking. We urge the Electoral Commission to do more about it. We are just calling people to come and vote. Some of them we are moving around informing them to come and vote. So they are not aware of what's happening. The security is okay, because also the momentum is so low. It's not so high like on presidential, like it was on presidential. It is low, so security have less work here. Everything is moving smooth, everything is moving at its own pace, so there is no panic and there is no any pressure because of the turnout. Yeah, SOPs, people are coming with masks, and every center there is a washing place. There are no gun thermometers, but the washing hands, it's happening, and people are coming with their masks.
And from Busiro East, I'm here at the Gombe Kayunga polling station, seeing the numbers of voters who have turned up today. Indeed, there is a low turn up. I don't know whether people have stressed, all people have shunned this election because of the recent presidential elections. But I'm calling upon all people of Gombe Kayunga to come and vote, because the people they are voting, the local government people, are the ones that are going to stay with. They are the ones that they are going to stay with. I'm calling upon them to forget the past and remember what is present right now, so that they vote the leaders, the LOC5 chairman, they vote the LOC5 councillor, because these are the people who are going to take their views at the districts, so that they are put into consideration. Otherwise, the MPs are going to discuss regional matters which may not even come to the council level, because they may come to the council level to those who have benefited from the views that have been passed by the parliament. So my appeal is to call upon them to come and vote.
Yeah, I'm Naika Mathias, a candidate, LOC5 councillor, Oxford Town Council. I've been monitoring all the polling stations. I've now brought food to my agents who are monitoring my elections.
And the name is Musingu Storbert, the district returning officer, Oxford district. Today we are conducting election for local government leaders at LOC5 level. Local government is into a number of levels. We have LOC5, LOC4 where we find the municipalities, and LOC3, which will be on the third. The municipality will be on the 28th. So on the 20th now, we are holding elections for LOC5 chairpersons and the councillors in Wakiso and the country. Even in Kampala, they are holding for the mayor. Now, the exercise is moving well. We started well by 7. All areas had the polling materials. The turn-up has been calm, but as the Electoral Commission have experience that it usually peaks towards the end, and we are ready for that. But even if it peaks after lunch, still we shall manage it. And even when the turn-up continues, the law says you will close the polling station at 4, but polling shall proceed until the last voter has cast his or her vote. So we shall push on. I would encourage them to come now. Vote when it is still early, and go home when it is still early. We have 1,434 polling stations in Wakiso that are electing now the LOC5 chairperson. So not until they have added all of them that they will declare. But we hope once results come in early, they around 2, 3, we shall have the chairperson declared. 2, 3 a.m. We shall have the chairperson declared.
So immediately after polling, you are going to start?
Now after polling, the counting will start at the different polling stations. After the counting, the filling of forms. Now once they are done with filling the declaration forms, there will be transportation to the tally center. Now done by the returning officer. So that process will go through. They will announce every polling station that will be receiving. Now after announcing, that's when the tally clerk is allowed to enter that DR form into the tally system. So that's how it moves. After that, once we have tallied all the results, then we will declare. LOC5 is a very important step in the leadership scale. Because it's what is deliberated at the LC5 councils that is eventually picked by our MPs, delivered in the legislature before it moves to executive. So if we don't have a good LC5 council, a good LC5 administrative structure, leadership structure, then our views, then our interests shall not be delivered well to the legislature before they eventually move to the executive. So that is why all people should take interest in the election of LC5, because that is the parliament starts at LC5. We also have LC3 that deliberates on our issues at sub-county level. They move to the district, then the district pushes them to the legislature. Without a good LC5 where you have not turned up, even the MP will not have good value for you. Even the executive will not get exactly what is happening to you. So that's why we encourage people not to lose interest in voting all the remaining levels of leadership.
The conversation and discussion continues now. That is the situation in Wakiso district. We continue talking about the voter apathy that we're seeing. But yet again, remember that in just 17 minutes, the polling will be ending and closing. Then we'll get into tallying and counting and eventually declarations or declaring. As opposed to the general presidential elections where we wait for 48 hours for the Electoral Commission to declare the winner of the elections. These ones are done immediately, and by the close of day today, by midnight, we shall be able to actually know who is who comes on where, and who is voted out. In any case, coming back to you, Ndugu Mututa, Akola just talked about the quality of our leaders. Now, it's not only at local governments, but it's also quality at parliament. He talked about parliament itself, where the Auditor General actually said that when you look at the quality of people sitting on these accountability committees, the accounts committees, you notice that their levels are not up to the levels that SCCAs and SCPAs require. But because they're members of parliament who are supposed to interrogate many of these issues, have lacking, they're lacking on qualifications of these. Let's talk about the quality.
Not only even academics. I happened, a number of times I've traveled with these MPs abroad. One time one was arrested at an airport in Texas. As soon as we landed, the MP, whether he had eaten mandazi or whatever, and was moving with this paper. So as soon as we are getting out of the airport, he throws away the paper, and police immediately picks him. What is happening? Littering, you know, he's littering the area which is not, I mean, you're not supposed to litter anyway. So he was picked until he was fined, I think, on spot $20 before he was left. And I've seen many of them when you are moving. And then you look at the discussion they are holding with colleagues of the other countries in the Europe and the US and even the Arab world. And then you realize, what type of people are these ones? Where do these people go? Which schools these people go to? So the quality is lacking. I'm not saying that our members of parliament have not gone to school. That is not true. But maybe the level of debate, the level of awareness, the level of doing things, the awareness of doing things, the political awareness, the political consciousness sometimes is lacking. Now, when you look at the local government, you cannot, like we said, attracting the quality of leaders also has to have the amenities, has to have the motivations upon which one will say, maybe if I go to this level, I will be able to do ABCD, I will be able to do ABCD. But you realize that when they took away the taxes from local governments, because local governments were thriving on the taxes that they were collecting, and they were having some money to do their own budgeting, to do everything for themselves, then the government abolishes most of the taxes at the local level, markets, blah, blah, and these people don't have money now. What they do is they have to wait for all the money from Kampala, the unconditional grants that they can sometimes use to run their activities as a district, because most of the money coming from the central government is conditioned either to salaries or to this type of program, and the local governments cannot divert any of those monies. Of course, I sometimes maybe they do, and that's why they have problems. So without money, that goes with the type of leadership, then the leadership collapses. You can only find a few people who either have nothing to do or are willing to go and have that little money or use those offices to be able to do their own things. Then we have the other issue of technocrats, because most of the people in the districts are people who have gone to school and to a level of a degree plus. Now, you are going to elect councillors under the chairman. Of course, the chairman has, to be a chairman, you have to have an equivalent of being a member of parliament. That one is okay. But for councillors, it is an open-ended. Any person can end up being a councillor, and these are people who are going to be the chairpersons of committees within that local government. And if you are going to be on a committee of education, and you have just been picked from the market where you are selling your potatoes or your cabbage or whatever, or you are going to be a chairman of health services, and you have just been picked anyway. So you see that level of interaction with a doctor, a director of health services in that district, there's going to be a problem, because this chairman will want to have every weekend maybe fuel from the director's office, some allowance, and when there are seminars, but the deliverables are going to be not reflected in what you also want. So if you had people, a doctor as a chairman of a health committee against a doctor who is a director of health services, the interaction will be at par. They will be able to discuss, they will be able to plan and look at what the district can be doing in that time. But this person, against this person, you are going to have a problem. One thing is that the councillor will think the doctor is underlooking him because he has not gone to school. And the doctor will also be at pains explaining to this P4 kid on what the department is supposed to do. So that rivalry also affects the delivery of services. But you're also looking at, when we undertook decentralization, it's a good idea that the local governments are going to be autonomous. They will be able to budget, they will be able to plan, they will be, but because of this same problem of leadership, you have also over time seen some of the functions now leaving the government, the local governments getting back to the center. You are talking about the cow. Initially, the district will appoint a cow, and when they appointed a cow, that is the autonomy we are talking about, that you have the capacity to do so. But because of the type of quality of leaders, it is realized that you don't have the capacity. And if you have that capacity, then you want this cow, because the chairman has caused your appointment, you must pay allegiance to the chairman. In other words, you will be able to do all the bad things that the chairman is going to tell you to do, if any, but you have to do it because it's your boss.
There's one thing that I want to draw attention to. Uganda has got about 38 or 39 world-renowned economists who can turn this country upside down and we become the cherished nation. Now, amazingly, we are not the richest and we are among the poorest with these world-renowned economists.
Yes.
That the World Bank consults from, that the IMF consults from, that these Bretton Woods institutions consult from. And they write papers, give presentations, do all these very good things. When the economy of Zimbabwe was collapsing, they got ideas from Asia. And their governor of the central bank, Governor Gono, got ideas from Uganda to see how to salvage the economy and to see how to actually help that country come up. Now, they were getting ideas from Uganda. But then again, on this other part, now you have very qualified technocrats or technical people. But yet again, you also have another breed of politicians whose qualifications is secondary. We do not really care who they are. I want us to bring this into a discussion and see. Now you have these technical people who are discussing these things at that level, but you also have the people who are supposed to monitor them, who are supposed to supervise them, who are supposed to offer oversight to them, and they totally know nothing.
Exactly.
Because their qualification is as simple as some basic education. For as long as somebody can actually swear in themselves, they can read the oath. Others even failed to read the oath. Now, the other day in Tanzania, President Dr. John Joseph Pombe Magufuli gave a position to some minister who failed to read the oath. And the president said, you can't be my minister if you can't read one page where your name is written. If you can't read that, then you can't even be minister in my government. I want you to look at that discrepancy. Where you have very good policymakers, you have very good technical people, but yet again, the people who are supposed to implement these things are of that quality. Are we going forward? Are we moving forward? Or there is something that is lacking in our systems?
No, I just want to say that such mistakes are not only made in Uganda.
I want to concentrate in Uganda.
Yes,
the scriptures are very clear.
That's very true.
I want to see what is in my house before I could even go elsewhere.
That's what I'm saying, that mistakes are not only made here, but the beauty of the mistakes we make is that at every time it's a learning point. That actually the moment we see this, time will come and actually people will wake up. Because ideally, we remember the parliament of the 60s. There were no qualifications. It was proficiency, I think, in English. But we had better legislators than we have today. When we brought in the issue of qualifications, senior 6 and above, then again we killed the whole thing. So it's the whole thing, like they say, society rises and falls on leadership. If you get that's why Kwame Nkrumah used to say, seek the political kingdom first and the rest will follow. So the moment we really don't get right the issue of electing leadership, we tend to think that when you talk of leadership, we look at the national leadership. No. Even your chairman, LOC1, matters a lot. There were those days, the good old days of NRM and the movement. Whenever the president would go to any village, he would not speak until the chairperson has spoken. I wonder where that culture actually died, where it died from. But that was a very good practice, showing that you people, even much as I'm the president, but actually you must pay attention, and you must always be serious
to the first government,
the first person you're electing. So those are some of the issues. Now, I would also say that of course we need some kind of reforms in our local government system. That is also very, very, very clear, especially as he said, when it comes to how these people are motivated. How do we motivate these people? That is also the other key issue. That
I will come to motivation, but I want to take you back to what you started with. I'll talk about the 60s and the proficiency, the qualifications we're not talking about, but because the late Adi Chiruda Chivejinja was always saying that when Uganda got independence, there were only 3 educated Muslims in this country, and it was him, Abu Kacha, Mama Yanja, and some other person. There were only 3. Now today, you do not know how many bachelors, how many masters, and how many PhDs we have from the Muslim community. Times have changed. We needed proficiency in English that time to just do a few things here and there. Now today, when it comes to even local governments, Dr. Bainum Jishazakole just revealed something to me here, which I knew about. Talking about the systems of even just disbursement of the monies. Now, when we talk about disbursement of the money, you know that we have this law called the Integrated Monetary Finance, the PFM, the Public Finance Management Act, which we keep amending every other time to suit the times. Now, on top of that, it also introduced to us what they call the Integrated Finance Monetary Systems, which we use to dispense the monies and all the things. Now, you'll notice that at MDA level, at PSST level, they know what to do. Now, the monies come to the district where many of these people cannot even don't know how to interpret these things. Now you have an able cow, I could think so, because the cow is a technical person. But you have a councillor, Jaged Asemakola, who does not even understand what integrated finance monetary systems are, but yet again they're supposed to monitor and look at all the things. So I think even when we are talking about all these things, but I think we also need to be very mindful that yes, the times have changed, and today we can't just say, for as long as you're proficient in maybe English, come and be here. There are certain things, technology by itself, which is taking us so rapidly. We need to do something, gentlemen, that we just can't let this be, you talked about the political kingdom. Have we achieved the political kingdom, or we just banding people into the political kingdom, and the kingdom is actually not standing even?
You brought in a very important issue of technology. I remember the other time when the Right Honourable Speaker of Parliament proposed that members of Parliament should be given iPads. People made a lot of noise. Say, why should you give them iPads? And this particular election that was scientific, they could not even use those pads to campaign for themselves. And that is why you find that the youth managed to actually steal the show from them, because you have an iPad, but you don't know how to
they know what to do with the iPads. Let's talk about the qualifications. I've personally studied the qualifications of members of Parliament, and you notice that the majority of the legislators we have normally come from the education background. They come from the teaching profession. There are more teachers, because when you get into their directory, you'll notice that they write your name, where you're coming from, your credentials, your biodata. And many of them are actually coming from the teaching profession. Now these are teachers, and teachers from all divide, primary school, X, Y, and Z. Now some people come from the classroom. They've only been in class, and they're lucky to actually get to Parliament. They're lucky to get to Parliament, and when they get to Parliament, they're put onto this particular committee. Let's just make sense of these things, guys, as
sometimes that will be a problem. Also, there is a problem of getting the hangover and then getting to real life. Sometimes people get stuck there until 4 years end, then they realize actually they need to have done something. But that notwithstanding, I think there must be, there is need to look at the decentralization, because this is something which we may not stop now unless we say we completely give up the decentralization and we completely remain unitary and everything is done from Kampala for the districts.
And cascaded the districts.
Exactly. But now, if we are to do that, if we are not to get over that, then we need to have a new way of handling this decentralization. In which case, much as we are looking at the qualifications of the technical people, you want a cow who has maybe a master's plus a postgraduate in administration. You have a finance officer who has a postgraduate in financing, and so we also need to look at the councillors. They are equals, because if you are going to have a senior team playing against a junior team, then the results are not going to be obvious. We need also to upgrade the qualifications of the people who are coming to the district, so that you can have the quality of and the type of people who are going to merge, or to work, to at least to reason with the technical people. Because if you have a man who has gone to school, has read his books, he's a chief finance officer, and you are going to have a chairman of the finance committee, the one is talking about, what will, because the man will say, he wants the meeting to end because he wants to sign for his allowance and goes away. Because you are not going to take him in the PS.
And you're bringing so many documents, which they will just waiver, and then so where do I actually sign? I need to just assent to this and
the rest you will do. So that's the problem. But at the same time, you also realize that the district is a very big component when it comes to implementation of government programs. You have heard the last time the president was complaining about the road unit which were given to the districts, and they are rotting there. You find the tractors are there, everything is there, but the roads are not being done. Why? Because they will tell you there's no fuel. And why? So there is why. But the problem is that this mismatch of the technical people, and when these councillors come, they want to look like they are more important than the civil servants. So there is that friction, because they want to prove that they have been elected by the people and they are very powerful. and for them they think a civil servant is a person you can transfer anytime, so to him it doesn't matter who is there. The truth is different. So what we need now to have people who are conscious, because a person who has gone to school will have respect for another one who has gone to school. But because this guy has not gone to school, or he has not gone very far from what his education is going to have a problem relating with these people. And there is the other biggest problem also under these local governments, the issue of recruitment. It is very next to impossible for a person now to come from a district from Kampala and you go to Masaka and get a job. For the simple reason is that these jobs are for us, the locals yes, in that for area. Our children. And if you are going to go to that, unless you are posted by the central government to go to that district, otherwise no one is going to allow that. So, and we have had cases for the whole of last year. I think we are hearing these stories of corruption within the service commission. District Service Commission. A person will say, for me, there is even a woman said, this man was my friend, he befriended me, he even befriended my daughter, and my daughter lost her job. So there is a lot of money collection in these places. To get a job, you must pay heftily to the service commission. I don't know if it is by design or by default. First of all, you are saying these are your children and these jobs are for them. But at the same time, you are forcing them to pay so much. What happens to a graduate, a person who's coming out of school and doesn't have the money to pay for that? So that corruption, that much corruption, is because of the poor. Because if a man has, it is assumed that if a person has gone to school and has credentials, is likely to do something without necessarily asking for money from someone. Say, you give me 1 million, give me 2 million, give me 500. But because these guys, first of all, they're spending their money in the campaigns to be able to be elected as councillors or chairpersons of the district. And for that time, and you have put it rightly, most of them, I think the biggest allowance they can earn on sittings about 200. And how many sittings? Because even the sittings are limited. Around 4 in a year. Yes. So, and the man has spent his maybe millions. How does he get that million without being corrupt and without asking for this money and in a tender or from a person who is looking for a job? These are some of the problems we are looking at in the local government.
Well, we'll take a break. It's just 2 minutes after the hour of 4 o'clock, and just guarantee you that voting has stopped in the country officially at this particular time. But we'll take a break. So when we return from the break, we'll let you know what's happening elsewhere in the country. Good evening.
*6#, follow the prompts and make instant school fees payments. Airtel Money, instant, secure, borderless.
Osobola okubanga wali owulidde ku ky'okwewaawo ebbanga. Kino kitegeeza kulekawo ekifuba kiramba okuva ku bantu abakuliraanye okukendeeza ku nsaasaanya y'akawuka ka kolona. Naye nga lwaki kyetaagisa? Ewatali kwewaawo ebbanga, omuntu alina akawuka asobola okusaasaanya ku bantu abalala 2 oba 3. Ate ne bano ne bakongerayo ku bantu abalala 2 oba 3. Era na bano ne bakongerayo ku bantu abalala 2 oba 3. Bwe batyo. Mu mwezi akawuka kasobola okuva ku muntu omu ne katuuka ku bantu 406. Wabula singa buli muntu asala ku bantu basenkana kimu kyakubiri, omuwendo gw'abafuna akawuka gusalika mu bunnambiro. Buli muntu alina akawuka asobola okusiiga omuntu omu oba 2. Ate na bano ne basiiga omuntu omu oba 2. Kino kitegeeza nti obulwadde bujja kusaasaana katono. Nga mu mwezi omulamba akawuka kasaasaana okuva ku muntu omu okutuuka 15. Ago ge maanyi g'okwewaawo ebbanga. Lekawo ekifuba kiramba okuva ku buli muntu akuliraanye okendeeze ensaasaana y'akawuka, otaase obulamu. Bw'okola bw'otyo ojja kwetaasa